This video is dedicated to Christian Roberts. Christian, thank you. Pir and Toothy versus Blim Comedic Genius, Odric Lunarch Marshal versus Ich-Tekik and Rebecc. And that is effectively a no lander, so we will get rid of that one into a bunch of lands with no ramp. I mean, maybe dropping Heuristic Study so early against green and white players. I don't think we can necessarily rely on Heuristic Study, so I'll mulligan again. Okay. And yeah, apparently we're not going to do too well here, so let's just... yeah, we'll get rid of the Kozilek, and we'll just try keeping this 6-card hand. Alright, well, we've got a card that we can actually play there at least, although I think we are nowhere near flipping the Sashaya. Everyone just getting down lands in the first turn, and we get into another forest, so still don't have all of our colours yet. Lightning Greaves from Billy Kills, patron of the channel as you all know, bringing us Rebecc and Ich-Tekik. And we're playing with Zektbu, who is a friend from the Discord as well, running Odric. And Odric going for a Stoneforge Mystic, so we'll be able to search up an equipment. That is a Sword of the Animist. This deck is brought to us by Christian Roberts, by the way. Speaking of patrons, he is a mythic patron to the channel, so gets to submit a deck once a month, and has given us his Pir and Toothy list, so big thank you to Christian for supporting the channel. You can follow the link through to Patreon with the link in the description below as well if you want to do that. And meanwhile, lots of colourless mana being generated by the Rakdos player, so we're not the only ones struggling on colour apparently. Okay, well that's something for us to slowly make our way up to. Let's just play out the Sashaya, not a whole lot else that we can do until we get another couple of lands into play. Talisman of Unity. There's an Ancient Tomb, so a turn 3 play and equip of Sword of the Animist, and no doubt it will swing in this turn. Goes in towards the right on the Rakdos player. And the first piece of coloured mana comes from Skyclave Relic, unkicked unfortunately for them. And then finishing off the turn with Bizarre Trader, tap, target player gains control of an artifact creature or land you control. Okay, Sylvan Library is not only something we can play this turn, but it's a means of us getting into the colours we need. And the first commander of the game is Rebecc, and instantly being equipped with the Lightning Greaves. And another equipment, one of the better ones, Hammer of Nazan, will make the Stoneforge Mystic indestructible, turn it into a 4/3 as well. And swinging in towards Billy Kills, hoping that he will block with his Rebecc no doubt. And now a Stuffy Doll, the chosen player is Zektbu, the mono white player, so no doubt he will gain control of the Stuffy Doll at some point. So even if he blocks with it, he'll still take damage. And the 1/1 goes in towards the white player. So we make it around the table with our Sylvan Library, which is really good. Getting to Life's Legacy, we're just looking for a blue source at this point. Ooh, and yeah, good to clear those big spells off the top. But yeah, we're nowhere near where we want to be with that, unfortunately. Yeah, we'll just keep all of these in an attempt to get into some blue. I think we just have to go for Pir, and maybe we will go for Garrick next turn. And a Cathar's Crusade, so some decent enchantments coming into play. And they've also got down the Urza's Power Plant. Not often that you see Urzatron, but Billy Kills is running it apparently. And the mono white player ramping so well since turn 3 thanks to Sword of the Animist that by turn 5 able to hardcast Avacyn, Angel of Hope. So now everything of theirs is indestructible, and we are going to eat 4 damage. I think I'll keep back, just in case we decide we want to keep the Garrick. I think I'm just going to take this damage, because I'm not going to go too heavy with Sylvan Library anyway. So just in case we want to block for the Garrick, we'll leave the Sashaya in play. Wasn't particularly hopeful about flipping this thing around anyway. Demonic Tutor from the Rakdos player, maybe they'll just go in for some of their colours. Well, it looks as though they're just fixing their black mana. Decided to play down an Urborg, which you would assume is what they tutored for. And then going for Praetor's Grasp, searching for a card and exiling it face down. They can play it. I think the scariest card in our deck is Omniscience. If they've already had the Urborg in hand and they've just tutored for Cabal Coffers, then we might see an Omniscience from them next turn. making it another turn cycle with the Silver Library, so fingers crossed again for some blue mana, and there we go. Don't think Conjurer's Closet really does anything for us at this point. Maybe when we get Avenger of Zendikar down we'll want that in play. Let's put both of these on top. So we'll just play out the Garruk and draw a few cards here. Yeah, we can draw a couple of cards with that and clear those off the top. I'm just very wary of putting too much life into the Sylvan Library. Maybe could have waited on the Garruk until we get Avenger out, but I'm just trying to fix the colours and draw at this point and trying to get into as much blue mana as possible. Being able to play Rhystic Study and Toothy in one turn would be alright. Taking an attack step away from the Avacyn, Angel of Hope, would be good as well, assuming that it was going to come in at us. It should go in at the Garruk now instead. An Arcane Signet from Kills. And then Kenrith's Transformation, excellent, going on to the Avacyn, Angel of Hope. We'll remove all of its abilities and turn it into a 3-3, as well as Cantrip. And then not wanting to turn sideways and leave themselves wide open, the 3-4 is a good blocker as long as everything's on the ground. So deciding to leave our Garruk in play, let someone else deal with it. And a Council's Judgment, don't often see this one in multiplayer. It's just exile any permanent in 1v1. So thus far the Kenrith's Transformation has been voted on. Oh, that's interesting, it's been voted on here as well. Well, I don't suppose we can expect Billy Kills to vote on his own Cathar's Crusade, so if we don't want the Kenrith's Transformation to go down, Billy Kills and I need to team up to exile something. So probably just get rid of this, and hopefully Kills will vote for the same thing. Yeah, and that's really good. So the Kenrith's Transformation was forced to go down there, so we might as well get rid of something else as well. We were always going to tie the vote, but managing to get rid of the Bazaar Trader as well. So now Avacyn, Angel of Hope is back in play. Not sure what the Rakdos player was thinking there. Maybe wants to gain control of it himself somehow. Alright, the Garruk continuing to be left alone. The Stoneforge Mystic continues to ramp and comes in straight at us. And the Avacyn swings in at Billy Kills. I think it's time to start trying to save some life, so I will block here. Ah, there we go. Going for Explosive Vegetation to help fix his colours there. It's an interesting way to use the Praetor's Grasp, especially if you're struggling on colours, so going for a couple of snow-covered mountains. Obviously all of his black is sorted with the Urborg. Now Kolfener's plans. Enters the battlefield, exile the top 7 cards of your library. You can look at them, play lands and cast spells from amongst the cards. But you have to skip your draw step and you can't cast more than one spell each turn. So this is one of those cards where they can get a bunch of free spells and then give this to someone else so that it really hurts them. Hopefully that's not pointed towards us, but we shouldn't have too much trouble drawing cards. It is a Simic deck after all. Now another blue source would be excellent here. Let's see what we've got on the top 3. Drawing to our own Sword of the Animist first of all, and still not getting into any islands. Wow, no kind of blue ramp at all. We could play and equip the Sword of the Animist this turn and get into a blue source that way. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to have time to go for Teferi's Ageless Insight, unfortunately. It's turn 7 and we're still looking at fixing colours, not good. Let's put both of these back. Need to try and reserve as much life as possible while we're going this slow. So we'll go for Sword of the Animist here. I'm just going to have to leave up no blockers apart from the 3-4 beast. Again, we'll just assume that the Garruk is not going to stay in play. Let's plus that before I forget. Does go up to 3 loyalty because we get double the loyalty counters thanks to the Pir. Then we'll put the sword on Pir and we'll turn in sideways so that we can get ourselves into some blue mana. Noteworthy that priority has been held up over here with white mana available. So we'll go in towards the Rakdos player and they will no doubt block with the Stuffy Door, which will deal a bit of damage to the white player. Shuffle those 2 cards away that we don't care for and finally get another island into play. So they do block with the Stuffy Doll, and like I said, that damage is dealt to the white player because they are the chosen player with the Stuffy Doll. Let's finish the turn by getting down a Rhystic Study, and that can be our turn then. And in response to that, a Containment Priest. They don't want to give us the card draw by casting it at the end of Billy Kill's turn. If a non-token creature would enter and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. Glad we don't have the Conjurer's Closet in play now. It is noteworthy again that we have Omniscience in the deck as well. We also have means of flickering our commander, so Containment Priest is not something we want to see. And then Aura Mutation immediately, going on to the Rhystic Study, and going to get some Saproling tokens with that as well, but not before we draw a card, so paying 3 mana to get removal out of our opponent's hand and drawing a card isn't the worst. And we draw into Tezzeret the Seeker, by the way. With all of those Saprolings coming into play, each of those triggers Cathar's Crusade, and then during Kill's turn going for his other commander in Ich-Tekik, Salvage Splicer. That triggers the Cathar's Crusade itself, but the token entering will also trigger it, so a bunch of power coming into play here. Oh, and the Saprolings still have Summoning Sickness. I thought that the Aura Mutation was done at the end of our turn, but it must have been done during their own. So the Saprolings still have Summoning Sickness and are not going to swing in. Now the Rebecc is an 8/9 and swings in towards the Stuffy Doll, going to deal 8 damage to the white player. You have to assume that the Avacyn is probably going to go in towards Billy Kills. It has evasion and vigilance, no reason not to swing in with it. Don't know if I called the Endless Horizons coming into play last turn actually, but they have exiled, not too many planes. A lot of people empty their deck of planes with this. Only 5 have come out of play here, and now it triggers at the upkeep, so they will get another planes into hand, guaranteeing that they can make a land drop every turn, or near enough every turn. A bunch of mana being tapped now as well. The white players probably ramp better than anyone else in this game, strangely enough. All pretty much off the back of Sword of the Animist. And there is Odric, Lunarch, Marshal. Someone's going to be dealt a lot of damage here. Indestructible, vigilance, and flying to everything. And then an Elesh Norn as well. So Stuffy Doll is going to deal 1 damage to itself because it's about to go down to the Elesh Norn. And we will lose our Pir Imaginative Rascal. Ich-Tekik Salvage Splicer triggered as well because one of their creatures died. That's pretty much what I assumed. A bunch of damage going towards Billy Kills. And these creatures do have flying, of course, thanks to the Odric. Like I said, flying, indestructible, and vigilance. So that is 20 damage onto Billy Kills, knocking him all the way down to 5. The Rakdos player goes for Angrath the Flame Chained and goes to gain control of the Avacyn Angel of Hope, which we assumed before, that's why they got rid of the Kenrith's transformation. They won't have to sacrifice that, but maybe they've got a means of sacrificing it in hand. The 6 mana Avacyn goes in towards the mono white player, who is the one to beat at the moment. Not too sure if there's a white player here that might be able to exile stuff. Black can sometimes exile creatures as well. There's Toxic Deluge and stuff, although they don't have any cards in hand, so it's looking like the white player is the one to beat here. Now they could have sacrificed the Avacyn with the Phyrexian Tower, didn't see that that was in play, but instead deciding to use their Mirror Pool very cleverly to make a copy of the Avacyn and keeping their token copy. Actually, I don't think they have kept their token copy. I think this is the original one. Anyway, what they should have done is kept the token copy and sent this away to the Legend rule. It would have ended up in the mono white player's graveyard. Either way, looks like a misclick there. Now, we've got Tezzeret the Seeker. I'm not entirely sure what we want to do with Tezzeret in this list, to be honest. It's a bit of an unusual one to put in a Pir and Toothy list. Let's have a look at the deck list here and we'll see what we can get. I mean, it's just a bunch of artifact ramp. Maybe Teferi's Puzzle Box? I don't know if it comes down with enough loyalty to grab that. Oh yeah, it can minus down to get the Puzzle Box. Yeah. Not entirely sure why Tezzeret's in here. Maybe it is literally just to get that. Anyhow, let's see what we draw into, see if we can grab ourselves an answer to everything that's going on here. Okay, Evolution Sage and Labman. none of that is really all that much use to us, I don't think. Struggling on the removal here. I'd really like the Simic Exile board wipe at this point. Not a card that I think should have been printed, but it's not available on Magic Online yet anyway for some reason. So at this point, are we just looking at resetting our hand entirely and going for the puzzle box? I think that might have to be what we go for. Not going to be able to block all that much with regards to these turning sideways at us anyway. And certainly not going to be able to block here thanks to the flying, so I think I'll just ramp and hope that we don't get taken out. We'll make another beast token with the Garruk as well. And then play a land, we'll turn this beast in sideways. Odric does trigger during each combat. And we'll leave their Planeswalker in play just in case they can do something with that. I'm just doing this for the ramp, I'm not all that interested in removing anyone's stuff apart from the mono white players. And then my attention will very quickly turn to the Celestia players. Look at all those islands we could have drawn. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure what to do here. If we go Boundless Realms, then I bet the white player will turn in sideways towards us and knock us down a massive chunk of life because we'll have a load of mana for them to worry about. I think I'll just go Avenger of Zendikar here. We won't get the tokens, but we will have something to sacrifice to Life's Legacy. It's only going to be 3 cards drawn, but I mean, that's pretty much the only out we've got at this point. So we'll get the Avenger of Zendikar into play. You never know, it might be a 5-5 by the time our next turn rolls around. Someone might be able to get rid of the Eleshnorn. Billy Kills, casting an Aura Shards. And then playing out a Helm of the Host as well. Doesn't have the mana to equip it, unfortunately. And then onto the mono white player's turn. And they go straight through to combat, getting all of their buffs. They have the Stoneforge Mystic attacking Billy Kills. The Containment Priest takes out our Garruk. Eleshnorn takes out the Minotaur Planeswalker. And the Odric swings in at the Rakdos player, as does the Avacyn. So down goes Billy Kills, down go our Planeswalkers and life totals. And the Rakdos player gets to play a Liliana of the Dark Realm, which should be able to take out a big creature thanks to the Urborg. Excellent, and they point the removal at the Eleshnorn. So that will give us a fighting chance. It's a good job that we played the Avenger of Zendikar last turn. We'll be able to draw some cards here. With the Sylvan Library drawing into Thassa's Oracle and Jace's Archivist, don't really think much of any of those. So I think we put them both back on top and we'll shuffle away with one means or another. So I think now that the Eleshnorn has gone down, we can go for the Toothy. And I'm not sure what I want to cast here, so just in case we don't get any other shuffle effects, I don't know if I'm going to go for Rampant Growth, we'll point the Toothy at ourselves and search for a Pir that is not in our deck just for the sake of shuffling. Gets rid of those 2 cards on the top. And now we can go for Life's Legacy onto the Avenger of Zendikar. That draws us 5 cards and there's all the islands all of a sudden. Puts a bunch of plus counters on the Toothy. We'll play the Command Tower and go for the Rampant Growth. Oh, actually, should have gone for Evolution Sage before getting both of those lands into play. But it makes the Toothy look less scary at least. We'll get another land into play by swinging in with the Beast. That will trigger our Sword of the Animist. And gets an island into play, so that triggers the Evolution Sage, puts a plus counter on the Toothy. And they just double block there, so we're going to lose the Beast, but we knew that was going to happen. Now the white player gets a Thespian Stage into play. And that is Darksteel Mutation onto our Toothy. Makes it indestructible, loses all its abilities. We'll still be able to attack with it at least, but won't be able to draw cards by flickering or anything like that. And now can we survive the attack here? So now the Stoneforge Mystic is swinging in towards the Rakdos player. We get Avacyn. That 2-2 goes in towards the Rakdos player and we get Odric as well. So 11 damage in total to us, 6 to the player on our right. Now the Rakdos player, still with 2 cards in hand, goes straight round to their second main. Don't forget that they've got the Colfener's plans still in play, so they skip their draw step and can only cast one spell a turn. Definitely was a really good thing for us to get rid of Bazaar Trader. And Vesuva came down as a copy of Command Tower. Now it's aggressive mining, only one card left under that enchantment. You can't play lands, sack a land to draw 2 cards, but you can only do that once each turn. They sacrifice the Reliquary Tower, go up to 4 in hand. And they've already cast a spell this turn, so they won't be able to cast another one thanks to the black enchantment. Now this turn we're keeping our fingers crossed that there's no removal or Teferi's Protection or anything over here, and we're also hoping that we can get into some form of unblockable for our Toothy. And now we're getting into the ramp, as well as that chunk of islands before. Okay, Siren's Ruse. Exile a creature you don't control. If we were to do that and return it, it would not come back into play thanks to the Containment Priest. I mean, we don't particularly care about either of those, so let's go top of the library and top of the library. So in this case, let's go for the Nissa, and we should be able to limit break it this turn thanks to getting down the Evolution Sage last turn. And Thespian Stage, now becoming a copy of the Strip Mine. Not sure what they're wanting to strip mine exactly. Then we'll just drop down an island, and the Evolution Sage will trigger. So now we can proliferate onto Toothy and the Nissa. Now unfortunately, when we get the emblem and start making lands, we won't be able to draw a bunch of cards and pile on with Toothy thanks to the removal of that ability. But we'll still get the proliferation from the Evolution Sage. So then let's go for the emblem immediately with Nissa. And we'll go for the Boundless Realms here. Get a hell of a lot of basics into play, and we'll draw a card per basic that does come into play. So that should mean that we'll be able to get into some kind of unblockable, hopefully. And we are searching for 14 lands here, which means that is 14 plus counters onto Toothy. So without any removal, we should be able to get rid of the white player here. And it's noteworthy that we've only got 1 basic left in the deck, so the Cultivate isn't necessarily going to be of much use to us. So a bunch of triggers coming down. Let's go for the Evolution Sage first, and we'll see what we draw into with Nissa. Don't think it really matters, but just in case. So we'll end up drawing 14 cards with Nissa Vital Force and get the 14 plus counters onto our commander, like I said. Just need to hope that we get into some form of unblockable at this point. And there we are. Got a Ghost form, there's Aqueous form as well. The Rogue's Passage we couldn't afford, but we'll be able to do that next turn. And there is the Omniscience, which, again, might be able to do next turn, although we don't have an infinite hand size here. So there we are, bumping our commander all the way up to a 21-22. And I think the one we ought to go for, just because it costs more, is the Ghost form. Although maybe... yeah, we can rely on that next turn, I think. Let's go for the Ghost form. We'll target the Beast and the Toothy with that. And it looks as though priority has been passed by the mono white player. Their Odric triggers during every combat step, so they'll get all those keywords, but doesn't help against unblockable. So we'll swing in with both. The Toothy might go down, but we'll deal at least 3 points of damage to them here, I think. Might help the Rakdos player out. And now they have regained priority, so might see Teferi's Protection or something. Settle the Wreckage will do it. Alright, but managing to take out the very commanding mono-white Odric player there, so now it's just a case of seeing what the Rakdos player can do next turn. They have hampered themselves quite a bit with the Colfener's plans, as I've said over and over again this game, but maybe they'll be able to do something to slow us down with aggressive mining. And we've got 39 cards left in the deck, and Toothy is a 22-22, so it is worth noting that we might want to play around the fact that we could deck ourselves. We don't have the Oracle or the Lab Man in hand, although we can shuffle things around with Time Spiral, which I will probably do next turn. So by discarding the Kozilek, didn't really think too much about what I was keeping in hand there. Definitely wanted to keep the Rogue's Passage. Probably could have kept some better cards there, but If we're looking to reshuffle everything and draw a fresh grip anyway with Omniscience in play, then don't think it really matters. Either way, we have discarded the Kozilek and shuffled everything back into the library. Drawing 2 cards again with Aggressive Mining. He did that during our turn as well, so now has 8 cards in hand, can still only cast 1 card though. And doesn't have anything, so just decides to scoop it there. All we would do next turn, let's see what we were drawing into. We kept the Sylvan Library the entire game. That was a very removal-light game actually. I was thinking about how the mono white player had Sword of the Animist the entire game. Yeah, very little removal there, which was surprising, but managed to keep hold of our Sylvan Library, so we would have seen Windfall, the Sasaya again, Rhystic Study. Yeah, even if we didn't have the Toothy in play, I think Omniscience would have seen us through to victory there. Could have played out our entire hand and then gone for the Time Spiral, drawn into a bunch of stuff, including a Windfall, whilst our opponent has 8 cards in hand, so we draw all this. We've got infinite mana there with Pelincron, not that we need it with Omniscience. And yeah, pretty commanding one in the end, although it was pretty sketchy at the midpoint there. Big thank you to Christian Roberts for giving me the deck to play with. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe. Consider supporting on Patreon as well through the link in the description if you want to. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.